All right, got him in the hot seat. Shane Sparks, Big Ten Network, really the voice of wrestling broadcasting. Excited to catch up with you here at the NWCA convention. I kind of want to, you're one of the biggest, most passionate wrestling fans out there, Brock. But I want to get the Shane Sparks origin story a little bit. Right? How did you become the Big Ten main lead? I don't even know what your official title is, Shane. Maybe start with that.
Yeah, Christian, first of all, always great to talk to you. I have a great respect for you and your passion for wrestling as well, and all the stuff you guys are doing at Flow on the content team. You guys are doing things every single day. I love it. So first and foremost, thanks for that. Long story short, Christian, timing is everything. Always wanted to be a sports broadcaster since I was about 8 years old, and got a sports radio job in 2002, so I had a sports talk show. Loved doing that. At the same time, I was doing a high school wrestling radio show. And at that time, like it was once a week. Scott Cleaver from Kaukauna, who runs the Cheesehead, him and I did that show. So we had a lot of fun. And then I started my own business called BadgerStateWrestling.com. I always describe it simply as it was like FloWrestling. It was just all Wisconsin. So we did just a ton of events, and then opportunity opened up with the Big Ten Network. Started out, doing the interviews, and now doing the play-by-play. But just a lot of timing. Did a lot of stuff with USA Wrestling over the years. Just kind of kept myself in position, and opportunities opened up, and really it was. You work hard, but the truth is, you got to have timing. Things got to fit.
But what is your background? How are you able to get the chops to even get that opportunity? What was how did you become whatever it is, a broadcaster of the whatever threshold?
I mean, when I was like 10 years old, I would go down. We had a park down the road, and I would go down there and do like PA baseball. That was where I kind of fell in love with it, and then my master plan was I wanted to go to Walter Cronkite School of Broadcasting at Arizona State, walk on the wrestling team. That was the master plan. And then when I was 19, found out I was going to be a dad.
Okay.
So that shifted everything. So then I was doing, I was assistant manager at Walgreens. That was a really good job. But I just didn't have a passion for it, but it was a good job for a 21-year-old, I call it 21-year-old kid. I worked at a powder metal factory. It was brutal. The worst job ever I've ever had.
I don't even know what that means.
I worked, Christian, at this powder metal factory, like designing like little parts for, I think, cars. I'd be covered in soot, hot, covered. I mean, it was not a fun job.
Yeah.
It was not a fun job. I drove a forklift. Which, I mean, if you know
cool.
me, this is not me. I mean, I was a complete liability on a forklift. I just remember tipping stuff over, and then I sold cars, and I had some success selling cars. I was 25 years old. I've told this story, many times. I sold cars for 6 months. I was the only name on the plaques. When you walked in, salesman of the month, I was the only name on the plaque. January, February, March, April, May of 2001. And I knew I wanted to be a broadcaster. That's all I've ever wanted to do. I remember it was a Thursday night. I think I sold 3 cars. I had a pretty good day financially, and I'll never forget, I got in my car on the parking lot, and I took the mirror, and I looked at the mirror, and I talked to myself a lot. And I looked at the mirror, and I looked at myself. I said, Shane, you sold 3 cars today. Let's say I made $4,000. And I said, you made $3,000 today, and you hate this. Yeah. And the next day, I Googled a radio school in Arizona. The guy that answered the phone, a guy named Jeremy Nicolato, good friend of mine to this day. He was from West Dallas, Wisconsin. I grew up in Ripon from Wisconsin. We clicked, and I drove there, and the rest is kind of history. And I knew at that radio school, I just got some really big connections. I started at that radio school. Jeremy got me into a place called Metro Source, was doing sports stories. And then I met a guy from Wisconsin. It was a stringer. Met him. I mean, it's a pretty crazy story. It really is. Grateful.
Talk to me about your first time where you got a big dual opportunity on the Big Ten Network. What was that like? What were the emotions like? The nerves? That
there were
first
a lot
time?
of them. There's still nerves.
Yeah.
The very first Big Ten event I did was the Midlands in 2011. Matt McDonough was a stud, and I remember, and Matt and I, we joke about this to this day. I walked up to him, introduced myself, and basically said, "Hi, Matt. Shane Sparks with the Big Ten Network. I'm going to be doing some interviews. Like, we'd love to interview you." And I think I might have even told him, like, I'd love, like, can you help me out? Like, I just very vulnerable, very humble. And it was funny because on the ride home, the producer called me, and Jim Gibbons and Doug Brooker was producing it, and they called me up, and they're like, "We've never heard Matt McDonough talk like that. He was great. Tons of nerve. I remember tons of nerves. I still get nervous. I get nervous if I'm not nervous. But there was another duel I remember in Champaign, Huff Hall, Iowa, and Illinois. And I remember on that one, I couldn't stop sweating.
Oh, yeah.
Couldn't stop sweating. I was just nervous. And that is one thing I have learned more than anything else in this business. The more you do it, it's just reps. It's like anything else. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get. The more you do it, your confidence builds. That alleviates the nerves. That was one I'll never forget from a nerve standpoint. Another real quick one, I was talking to Jason Nolf last night. Of all the interviews I've ever done, probably the one I will never, ever, ever forget was Isaiah Martinez, Jason Nolf, Huff Hall. And I'll be real honest, I'm pretty prepared. I'm preparing for Isaiah Martinez. Why? Because, of course, he's going to win. It's Isaiah Martinez. And he wrestles this kid, Jason Nolf. Nolf pins him. We're got about a 2.5 minute commercial break, and they're coming back to me. And I remember I walked up to Jason. I said, "Jason, I'll be real honest with you. I am not prepared. I didn't think you were going to win." I mean, I just laid it right out there for him. And he looked at me so calm and so matter of fact and just went, "Yeah, I knew I was going to win." And that was the great thing, is when they came back to us, that was my question, was talking about his self-confidence and the self-belief. That was a panic moment. But again, I wasn't ready. I just screwed up. Can you help me out? And he was great.
Who were some of your inspirations? Who have you learned the most from?
That's a great question. Who have I learned the most from? I think from a broad view, my 5th grade teacher, Mr. Don Greger, one of the most influential people in my life, just learning work ethic. I learned how to work. It's the hardest I ever worked, quite frankly, in school, was when I was 5th grade. Okay. 10, 11 years old. He was big. Another awesome guy I had, again, not necessarily wrestling specific, but just broader. High school teammate. I was a freshman in high school on varsity. Scott Grundle was a guy, valedictorian of the class in 1991 at Ripon High School. We wrestled together, became super, super tight, good friends to this day. He went to the United States Air Force Academy, and I saw as a 15-year-old kid what excellence looked like. That was a huge person that God put in my life. Great teachers, coaches. I had great people around me. That's something, the older I get, that I've come to appreciate more and more, as I had great people around me. And you got to have great people around you. And of course, it starts at home. My mom and dad were always super, super supportive, and that's it. A lot of great people. From a broadcast standpoint, I mean, I remember, watching the NCAAs in the early 90s on TV and just loving to listen to those guys. Vin Scully's my favorite all-time play-by-play guy. But, I had some great people around me growing up.
Yeah. For you, from a broadcasting standpoint, do you get the same level of excitement, energy when you're doing football or baseball? Those sports that are maybe outside your passion center. I know there's sports you love.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love doing it all. I love doing it all because they present different challenges. The reality is wrestling's what I'm most comfortable with. Wrestling's what I do the most of. But I like challenges. So doing college football, I do sideline reporting, mainly in the Big 12 for college football. Reporting to me, in my opinion, is 5 times more difficult than play-by-play. Play-by-play, you do your prep work, you call the action, like your level of prep kind of dictates in many ways how good the broadcast is going to be. You control it more. Yes. From a reporting standpoint, you can do everything right. You can do so many things right, and maybe it's an interview, and it's just maybe it just kind of falls short. So sometimes the reporting, more of an investigative thing, try to, find some information out. Sometimes you don't really have easy access to it. Yeah. You got to maybe try to figure that out. So I really like doing it all, but I just like getting better. And the reality is, no matter what you do, and broadcasting is a great example, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle, and that's how you grow. But you got to embrace, I've said this, when I go back to USA Wrestling, I did Fargo interviews. I started in 2008, did that for nearly 10 years. And I've always said, Pete Isaias, let me suck. Mm-hmm. He let me suck. I had notes. I had notes. I was reading off of notes, but that was so critical in my development. So I've always just appreciated anybody. I listen to some of my early television broadcasts. They're not very good, which is okay. It takes time, and you gotta put the work in, get the reps. Nobody sounds like Vince Scully on day one. Yeah.
Your energy, your passion, the way you are on broadcast, I would honestly say that is a dampened version of Shane Sparks. It's actually you're not ramping up. In some ways, you're controlling. Have you always just been like this? I've known you, I don't know, funny. 10 or so years. Yeah. Have you just always been like as a high school kid, elementary? You always just been.
Yeah, I would say it's so funny you said that, because I do. I got to calm it down.
You should have seen him last night.
Christian, I remember this has got to be 7-8 years ago. It's like July. Okay, I'm going through the TV channel. It's a true story. Going through the TV channels. I'm not looking for wrestling. I'm just going through the channels, and all of a sudden, wrestling is on. I stop it, and it's a guy doing an interview. And it took me, my first reaction was whoa, who's this? It took me about 2 seconds, and I quickly realized, that's me. Whoa. So, I've had to, I do try to calm things down. You're right. From a broadcast standpoint, I do try to calm things down. But yeah, I would say I've always been pretty, I'm just kind of a passionate guy. I love life. And I am so grateful. People will be like, "Oh, you got great energy," I get to do what I have dreamed of doing since I was 8 years old, and that is not lost on me. That is God's grace, and 100% God on that. That I get to do this, and it's an incredible thing that I get to do.
What's it like working with, you've had a lot of broadcast partners, but you and Gibbons over the years, what's it been like working with Jim?
It is the coolest thing. And we got off to a little bit of a rocky start. Jim and I got off to a little bit of a rocky start. And now looking back on it, knowing, I'm older now, more mature now. I'll be honest, there was one story where I'm lucky Jim didn't crack me one. And quite frankly, if he would have, I would have deserved it. But but we've come a long ways.
What happened?
So it was 2014. I think it was February 2014. First dual meet I'm ever doing. Minnesota, Penn State. I believe it was Ness pinned Alton in that match, if I remember right. And so it's the first dual meet I've ever done, and it was in the studio. So it's in the Big Ten studio. So that was one thing that I didn't have a lot of experience on. I was nervous, understandably so. I was nervous, and so I'm working with Jim, and we had, I knew Jim from, obviously he was the analyst, but when I was doing the mat side stuff, I'd be the guy on site, so I didn't really spend a ton of time with him. So I get there, and again, probably a little too energized, and I remember, I was talking too much. And I looking back on it, I definitely was talking too much. And Jim basically looked at me and made a comment, during one of the commercial breaks, I think he made a comment like, there's two people here. And him and I literally, like, just stared at each other. Like, I'm talking like it's a commercial break, and we are just staring at each other. And it was rough. I mean, it took Jim and I a little while to click, and now he is the closest thing to a big brother that I have. I love working with him. He is the most amazing wrestling mind I've ever met because of his perspective as a wrestler, championship coach. We get done with dual meets, we'll go to dinner, and I will just sit there, ask him questions. Getting to spend time talking wrestling with Jim Gibbons I wish everybody could do it. The amount of knowledge and wisdom he has, in my opinion, is second to none. But so I love working with him, and there's times in broadcasts where I am just enamored with how things he sees. Because, I mean, the stuff that he can pick out in a broadcast. There was one time we were doing a broadcast, I can see him, out of my peripheral vision, and he's on the talkback button. I know he's talking to a producer, and I know there's going to be a replay coming up. And it was he wanted to zoom in on a grip. And he's like, look at his fingers, how they're like crawling up. He's like, it's like the itsy bitsy spider. And we got the commercial goes on, and I'm like, how did you see that? Like, how did you see that? He's able to see things and anticipate things with his experience. It's incredible.
That's one thing I've noticed too. Like, I'd like to think I watch as much wrestling as anyone.
Sure.
And then the people that really did it and coached it on a different level.
Sure.
They just see it. They have a different sort of vantage point, even though we're sitting in the same seat.
100%.
It's a freaky thing.
Yes.
Next to them and be like, man, I think I'm looking at everything. I'm listening. I'm like trying to take in as much as possible, and they'll still. There's something they can bring. That's just like that specialness.
They've executed it at the highest level, and I'm with you. I mean, I'm at my core, I'm a wrestling fan. I'm not a technique expert by any stretch. I don't pretend to be one.
I don't know. You were showing this
the
head lever
coffee grinder,
yesterday.
the coffee grinder on
head
Null.
lever.
Jason Null felt that coffee grinder yesterday.
You put him with that. You went coffee grinder to the half Nelson.
Yeah, absolutely. Lift the head, shoulders go down, slap with a resume.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, that was your first Athlete's Ocean technique breakdown. Well, cool. Well, what are you doing here at the convention? Just getting some sun, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a great time. I mean, I just love, Christian, celebrating the sport. This is my first time I've been to this convention. Glad to be here. Here with FloWrestling, and was involved in one of the FloWrestling presentations today. And I'm super excited about what's going on. I've been involved in this sport, over 20 years from a media standpoint, trying to get results, looking at brackets, looking at video, all these different things. And what FloWrestling has done, I remember the first interview I saw in FloWrestling. I believe it was July of 2007. My brother calls me up. He's like, there's this new website, and I just watched an interview with Tom Brands. I go to it, and I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. And to see, it's hard to believe, that's almost 20 years ago, but to see the innovation with FloWrestling, and I applaud you, Christian. Obviously, being involved with FloWrestling, you go to Flow headquarters in Austin, and you see the mission. We want to grow the sports every day, and we want to do cool things. And FloWrestling, I'm very grateful to work with a lot of wrestling, entities, people that promote wrestling. That's they do a great job. FloWrestling is dedicated to wrestling every single day. Guys like you in the content team. You got 10 guys in the content team, whether it's, the quarter century team. I love watching that. Like watching, the predictions and breakdowns. As a wrestling fan, that's what I am first and foremost. I love watching that stuff. The Flow films. You look at Final X and what that's become in the production. FloWrestling has elevated the game. Elevated the game. It has been a game changer in this sport like nothing else. And when I look at some of the stuff that's coming, right now, whether it's this bracket or the new virtual pan and zoom, that's fascinating. These cameras that don't need camera operators, rankings, the streaming. The user experience it's just spectacular, because I think back to those old days, just trying to find a result when it was such a pain point. And now, those brackets with you go to the bracket, see the results, you can maybe see the video, go to a wrestler profile. The things that are coming out are super exciting. And I just love being associated with FloWrestling.
Well, cool. We love being associated with
It's a
Shane
great
Sparks.
time.
We got to get you back on the show.
Absolutely. I love, I love, you're fun to talk wrestling with.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a good time, and we'll do it again soon.
We got to get you and Ben. Got to get the whole band back together.
Absolutely. That'll be really cool to do that. Getting him back in the mix, and kind of like the old days a little bit.
That'd
Absolutely.
be great. All right, Shane, you got anything else for me?
No, just, thanks a lot, and you guys continue doing what you're doing. Appreciate it, and thanks for the time today.
All right, thank you, Shane. See ya.